blessings, grand risings to my people. And it's your brother PJ again, coming with another lesson. And this is going to be a little brief lesson. And really why I'm giving these backgrounds of all these European monarchs and all these different people in these times of the 1800s, 1700s, is because I'm trying to get people of melanated descent to understand that all these people making these moves in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, and 1400s were melanated people. So when they try to, for years and years, when you hear about the pastor, you hear about these civil rights leaders and all these different people in the media always talk about white supremacy, white slavery, and all that. I'm trying to break down that facade of that, because all that is fallacy. The white man has not done all these things that our people are trying to attribute him doing. He's not as great as what we think he is. And once we get to the realization that we've been fighting amongst ourselves, and that's why we in this predicament today, different melanated people from different parts of the world will have a better understanding of get a better grips and a better understanding of what reality is. Because we're in a day and time where you can claim to be whatever, but is that in truth or in reality? Just like you can claim to be a dog or a cat, you can claim to be a man or a woman, but is that true? Is that reality? Just like you could be Native American, be part of whatever tribe, but you don't have to have any genealogy records showing that you from here, or that you are Irish, or that you are French, or none of this. So I'm trying to show you factual evidence, so no way these people can be this. This is just fallacies. So today we're going to talk about Napoleon Bonaparte. And just to give a brief background on Napoleon Bonaparte is another big thing about him, and I get into it more when I talk about Egypt is America. That video is coming soon. Is Napoleon Bonaparte actually was part of the Louisiana Purchase, which was the Mississippi, and also he conquered and found modern day quote unquote Egypt, which is, the pyramids of Giza. But he did both of these feats within a 6-month time span. So he conquered all the land in Louisiana and the Mississippi, and he found the pyramids of Giza. And just to give you a little background notice, the Algonquin Indians, and I do a little brief video on that, is they spoke Phoenician, the same similar language of the quote unquote Egyptians, in pictographs. And they were one of the very few people that could decipher these writings. And it was very funny that at the same time that the French were running into these people in America, they were finding and discovering and writing Egyptian history in Africa and redefining it. Well, we're going to get into Napoleon, the real Napoleon. According to studies by Gerard Lockett and his co-authors based on a DNA research since 2011, Napoleon Bonaparte belonged to the Y DNA haplogroup, that is M34. This haplogroup is rare in Europe and has its high concentration in Ethiopia and Somalia. And I'll put up a picture just to show you what region that comes from. They said Napoleon Bonaparte's alias, Jafar Bonaparte, alias of Opium Bonaparte, alias of Wentworth Bonaparte, alias of Acre Bonaparte, is a Conscrian by birth, about 5 feet 4 inches in height, a swarthy of black complexion. And I'll link all this up, and I'll give you a source of this. And this is piggybacking off what I was talking about in the video earlier, when a lot of these names and these old books and these volumes and biographies of these people, they describe what these people look like, and they don't just flat out say it's a white man with pale skin. They say that these people have swarthy skin, they're short, they have woolly hair. And just like I said, we get back into that word swarthy or swart. And like you know where that derives from. I said in my video earlier, that means black man or Negro. And I'll put up a picture of the real Napoleon Bonaparte. Is called the head of a Negro. It was painted by Jean Gros in 1797. She was a French printer. When anti-French rioting made his stay there was unsafe, he led a migration into northern Italy, painting portraits for a living. In 1797, he encountered Josephine Bonaparte in Guiana, Pleased with his handsome young artist, she took him to Milan and introduced him to her husband and engaged in his virtuous campaign against Austria. Gross became a member of Napoleon's court, and with Josephine's help persuaded Napoleon to sit for his portrait. And this is where that painting head of a Negro come from. So this is an actual painting of somebody of Napoleon and his court. And these are paintings that they don't hide, and they like to whitewash, like I said earlier. And this comes into play when you have Cromwell's and you just have whitewashing the history. Please note, in the arts, idealism encourages imagination and attempts to realize that the mental concept of beauty and the standard perfection, just opposed to naturalism and realism. And painting idealism refers to the tradition and creating of the perfect figure, one with a good-looking face, perfect hair, good body shape, no outward blemishes of any kind, rarely, if ever, painted or drawn from life. So essentially, it is an artificial style painting that bears no resemblance to naturalism or character. A surprising number of people do not understand that museum arts, movies, and television reflect what is called artistic license. It is a term that is a euphemism used to denote a distortion of fact. So just like I was trying to tell you, when they produce all these movies and all this modern art, it's because they're doing it under a euphemism, under an illusion, because in today's society, it is white supremacy, and that wasn't a thing 100 years ago, 200 years ago. There was melanated people dominating, ruling these lands, and today you have distortion. That's why you have Egyptians being depicted as white. You have Mayans and Aztecs being depicted as pale-faced people. You have all these different people that were melanated being depicted as lighter today under this type of act, because it's just depicted as just from movie, art, and entertainment. It's not something that's accurate. The beginning during the 19th century and even earlier, Caucasian artists took to depicting historical people as they hoped to imagine them to look. And in doing so, they made everyone white. But that is not reality. Just like I said, that's not reality. We have also some data on the ancestry people of the surname Bonaparte. In 2010, 66% of people with the surname Bonaparte were black. And I'll put up that information. And so this is a lot of stuff they like to hide. They don't like to tell people, or this is something that, they'll just push under the rug. And to give you another idea, is just like this is the same thing with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and I'm trying to think, it's another one, J.P. Morgan. A lot of these families, when they first moved over here to America, or they first started to get their foundation in America, these were melanated families. These were families of melanated descent. They came from Europe. They came from different places all over the world. And so what happened was there was a transition where they understood how the power structure was going. So the ones that were light skinned and white, they transitioned to become the face of the business and transition power over them, because there are people that are related to a lot of these people, just like I said, J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, that are melanated, but they don't have the money or the status of the lighter skinned family. And that's what was transitioning. That's what's happening. And there are people today that are melanated, that are related to Napoleon Bonaparte, that do not have the status or the recognition of some of the white family in Europe and France. And that's the type of stuff that's going on. And that's the type of stuff that we're trying to reveal in society. And just like I said, you got your pastors, you got these Masons, you got the Boule, and this is the real true secret. This is what they're trying to hide. And now tap into it. This is a part of the Darwinism and the Pan-African theory. They want to make every person of melanated descent from Africa, because if they can, anything else attributed from any other continent, they can say that a white man did it or a pale-faced man did it. And it constricts you. It constricts your culture to one place, one body, or a body mass. So we're gonna get into Napoleon Louis Bonaparte, Louis II. This is the nephew of Napoleon I. And just like I said, they said that he came from the same DNA haplogroup, which was the E-M34. And a lot of people don't understand this, and the DNA testing of today is not the same DNA testing of back then, or what they try to attribute to these historical figures, because they do a lot of modern DNA testing. And I have a video on my YouTube. You click that. I'll see if I can try to link that to the video right here. But they have a lot of modern DNA testing where it's a lot of fallacies in it, and they don't use DNA testing of ancestral bones or ancestral DNA to compare to modern humans of today. So I'm gonna talk about Napoleon Bonaparte's nephew, and I'll put a picture up of him. So Napoleon Louis Bonaparte was the king of Holland for less than 2 weeks in July 1810. As Louis II, he was the son of Louis Bonaparte, King Louis I, and Queen Hortense. His father was the younger brother of Napoleon I of France, who ruled the Napoleonic Kingdom of Holland from 1806 to 1810. His younger brother, Louis Napoleon, became the Emperor of French in 1852 as Napoleon III. And I also link in his biography, it gives a description, and it also says that he was a swarthy man. And a lot of people, they just disregard the meaning of words, and that's what we're trying to bring back in history. So we're going to talk about the real Napoleon III, and this is also another nephew of Napoleon I, and he's from the same haplogroup. And I'll put up a picture of him in a source. He's described as a swarthy man, just like I said before. And Napoleon III was the first president of France as Louis Napoleon Bonaparte from 1848 to 1852, and the last monarch of France as the Emperor of the French from 1852 to 1870. And the nephew of Napoleon I, he was the last monarch to rule over France and elected to the presidency of the Second Republic in 1848. He seized power by force in 1851 when he could not constitutionally be re-elected. He later proclaimed himself Emperor of the French and founded at the Second Empire, reigning until his defeat in the French army and his capture by Persia and his allies battling Sedan in 1870. Napoleon III was a popular monarch who oversaw modernization of the French economy and filled Paris with new boulevards and parks. So he had a big hand into what France is today. The tourist attraction is today, building up the parks and a lot of the attractions that you see today, the beautiful scenery. That was part of his reign. He expanded the French overseas empire and made the French monarch navy the second largest in the world, engaged in the Second Italian War of Independence as well as the disastrous Franco-Prussian War, which was commanded his soldiers during the fight and was captured. This man is now erroneously and ridiculously identified as Radama II, King of Madagascar. The colony of Madagascar dependencies was a French colony off to the coast of Southeast Africa. However, there were absolutely no first-hand or primary historical accounts that make any reference to Radama II, and a pseudo or alias or fictitious name that a person or a group assumes that a particular purpose. In this case, it is a fictitious name that a group assigns to a person for a particular purpose. For one, the second in Ramadan is what's known as the regal numbers, which are ordinarily numbers used to distinguish among persons with the same name who held the same office. Most importantly, they are used to distinguish monarchs, and ordinarily it is the number placed after a monarch is regnal, and the name is differentiated between number of kings, queens, princes, and reigning the same territory with the same regal name. Almost all West European monarchs after the medieval times used ordinals. Ordinals were a European creation. Ordinals are not a thing of Madagascar or indigenous Austronesian society and culture, which means that's not something that's with Melanesian or Australian or any descent. Like, we didn't use the third or the fourth, you just had a different title. This is something of European descent. No tribal chief in all of New Guinea or Malaysia, Polynesia, South Asia has ever ordered nobles after their name. For two were told that Radama was the member of the Marina and the Marina Kingdom. The Marina Kingdom was allegedly founded in 1540 by Adrena Malino. Yet there are absolutely no first-hand or primary historical records that can attest to this. The so-called monarchs, the so-called Marina Kingdom, has no documented or recorded history. They have no contemporaries to tell their story. All the so-called history that we do record of them is said to have come oral tradition. But who the people are that pass this oral tradition, nobody knows. So this person just popped out of nowhere in the mid-1800s, where a high European fashion posing European crowns and skeptics. An indigenous Malagasian king of pre-colony kingdom in Madagascar wouldn't use regal numbers after his name. Pre-colonial indigenous men did not do that. They did not wear European fashion, military fashion, European royal crowns, nor did they sit on European royal thrones. So just to give you some information when closing out, and that taps into what we're talking about with a lot of these kingdoms and nations, and a lot of these stories that these people on the west coast of Africa try to give us, is that they tell us that they have an oral tradition that goes back 1,000 years, but they have nothing written down. They don't know their 8th or 5th great grandmother or grandfather. They don't know who their grandfather is. They don't even know these people's name. Just like I told you right here, and I'll post the document so you can read it yourself. But they don't even have a historical account or first-hand accounts of these tribes or these nations or these great kingdoms. But they just somehow made up all this information recently, and it's all modern. And that's when you really get into this quote-unquote pan-African and this African history and all this different history. It makes no sense. And I just showed you all the way up until the 1870s. France was ruled and controlled by people of melanated descent. And this is something like the hide, and a lot of these European countries was this way, Germany included. And this is hidden history that they don't want to tell you, that white people have just now came into power recently. That's why you have all these. You have the Great Depression. You have World War I. You have World War II. And you have the Vietnam Wars. It's because this is a transition of getting people of melanated descent out of power and putting people of white descent into power. And that's the big thing that was happening at this time. And I just want to, and this is why I'm making these videos. I'm going to make videos in the future, more so pertaining to Indian history, and talking about different tribes that lived in America, and talking about the real history in America, because America is the true old world and it has more history than a lot of the other continents and countries. But I just wanted to tap into European history and give people a better understanding of what was happening from the time of the 1400s to the late 1800s, because that's a big chunk of history where they push a lot of lies and a lot of things that's not true. Some things are true, but a lot of the colonization was done by people of melanated descent, a lot of people of Negro descent. A lot of the kings and queens that came over here and started these charters to colonize these people were Negro, and the people over here were melanated people, Negro. So it was melanated people on melanated people. That's one thing I'm trying to get a lot of people to understand. So we can't just be making this white man this big bad boogeyman and he's doing all these things when that's not reality. But peace and blessings to y'all. Be safe with your family. Stay blessed up. All praise to the Most High, and thank you to the elders, all the ones pushing the wisdom, pushing this truth, and just trying to help each brother and sister out. And I hope you have shed light on your pathway to find the answers, shed light on anything that you need to find out, and just stay prayed up, stay blessed up, stay safe out here.